Captain Arjun stood on the edge of the shattered plain, the ground blackened by fire and torn by craters. The distant roar of artillery had faded, leaving only the hiss of leaking steam and the echo of shifting metal. His boots sank into ash. As he moved forward, scanning the ruined landscape, every sense told him to stay back, that the area had been declared too dangerous for patrols. Yet he could not ignore the soft cry he heard beneath the steel wreckage. Silent and tense Arjun, crouched beside a fallen transport craft half buried in rubble. The cry came again, frail and urgent. He reached into the dark cavity and found her, a young alien girl with skin as pale as fresh snow. Her bright eyes, the color of polished silver, fluttered open at his touch, lay curled on the cold metal, her slender form trembling. Jagged metal had pierced her arm, and a thin line of blood traced down her pale cheek, without thought for protocol. Arjun lifted her gently into his arms. He felt her small body tremble against him, and he murmured comforting words in his own tongue. Though she did not understand his language, her eyes softened as he wrapped her in his jacket. Around them, wreckage groaned under its own weight, and a half-collapsed wall threatened to fall. Arjun pushed himself upright and carried her through the wreck, each step careful and sure. He could taste the dust in the air, feel the heat of distant fires. He knew time was short. They emerged into a narrow corridor of the base's medical wing. Heat lamps cast a warm glow on counters cluttered with medical kits and machines. A junior medic rushed forward, alarmed at the sight of the alien. Arjun spoke quickly, pointing out the puncture wound in her arm, urging the team to act. The medic nodded and took Serena from his arms, treating her with gentle precision that mirrored his own care. Arjun watched as nurses shaved a small patch of skin around the wound and cleaned it with calm skill. Serena lay on the cot with a thin blanket over her shoulders. Her silver eyes tracked Arjun as he leaned on the wall, his face drawn with relief and concern. She reached out a slender hand. He took it without hesitation. Her skin felt cool under his warm palm. A soft glow of gratitude passed between them, an unspoken promise that he had risked everything to save her life. For a moment, the war felt distant, as if it belonged to another world. Over the next hours, word of the rescue spread quietly through the ranks. Soldiers passed Arjun in the hall and nodded with respect. Commanders, who had earlier scolded him for disobeying orders, now kept a watchful eye, uncertain whether to reprimand or commend him. Yet Arjun did not care. He would do it again without question, because in saving Serena, he had seen the face of hope in a place filled with despair. As dusk settled outside, the medic returned with a small, smooth pendant shaped like a crescent moon. Serena clutched it in her slender fingers and pressed it into Arjun's palm. Though the markings on the pendant glowed with an alien script he could not read, he felt its meaning as clearly as any spoken word. It was a gift of trust, a symbol of a bond formed in the worst of times. That evening, Arjun walked from the medical wing back to his quarters with the pendant safe in his uniform pocket. He paused at the doorway, glancing back toward Serena's room. Through the frosted window, he saw her resting peacefully, the pale lines of pain slowly fading from her face. A quiet hope bloomed in his chest. In the heart of war, he had found a reason to believe that kindness could still shape the future. And when the battle raged again, he would carry that hope into the storm. Captain Arjun stood at the edge of the shuttle bay, staring at the sleek hull of Serena's starcraft. The bright lights overhead reflected off the polished metal, making the bay feel colder than any battlefield. He held the small pendant in his hand, the crescent moon shape, cool against his palm. Serena had given it to him with a gentle smile, but now she was preparing to leave him behind. Serena moved among the crew with elegant grace. Her pale skin glowed under the bay's lights, and her silver eyes betrayed both gratitude and sorrow. She wore a simple uniform of her people's navy, white with thin bands of blue. As she secured her gear, she glanced at Arjun. Her gaze held a world of unspoken words, a promise of friendship, and a plea not to forget her. Arjun swallowed hard. He tried to think like a soldier. This was a mission, an order to send her home. But his heart rebelled. He remembered the way she trembled on the shattered plane, how fragile she had been in his arms. He had shielded her from death that day. Now, he felt exposed, his own heart, at risk of breaking without her presence. A voice crackled over the comlink. All aboard in 5 minutes. The words felt like a hammer blow to Arjan's chest. Serena nodded once and turned away. He wanted to dash forward to beg her to stay. He had learned long ago that respect could mean letting go. With heavy steps, he walked toward the boarding ramp. As he approached, Serena stepped down and touched his shoulder. Her hand was light, but the contact sent warmth through him. Faint. Spoke in her musical language, the soft syllables like a lullaby. Arjun did not understand the words, but her tone was clear. She thanked him again, her voice trembling with emotion. He bowed his head, fighting tears he dared not show. Round them crew members loaded suitcases and equipment. Nothing else mattered to Arjun except Serena's presence. He focused on every detail, the curve of her cheek, the way her hair fell. Over her shoulder, the small scar where he had cleaned her wound. He vowed to carry those memories with him. They would guide him through the darkness of war. Serena handed him a small data crystal before stepping into the craft. For communication, she said in broken English. Her attempt made him smile. Through his grief, he took the crystal and slipped it into his pocket. It was heavy with promise and invitation to speak across the stars, and a lifeline to a friend. The shuttle hatch closed with a soft hiss. Arjun stood perfectly still as the engines powered up. The bay doors opened, revealing a starry sky beyond. Serena's craft lifted gently, then hovered. Arjun watched until the hatch window revealed. Her face one last time. She pressed her hand against the glass. He mirrored her gesture on the outside. Their hands aligned over the barrier, skin to glass, hearts to hope. Then the ship shot forward. In an instant, it became a bright streak of light, arching into the night sky. The bay lights dimmed as its engines faded. Arjun lowered his arm and closed his eyes. He felt the empty space where Serena had stood. The echo of her footsteps lingered in his mind, and he pressed his fist to his chest, where the pendant lay hidden. That night, Arjun sat alone in the quiet barracks. He held the pendant between his fingers, tracing its smooth edges. He listened. To the distant hum of generators and the faint thrum of starcraft engines above. War still raged beyond the base, but his thoughts were with Serena's home world, safe at last. He whispered a vow into the still air. He would not let her sacrifice be forgotten. He would protect Hope as fiercely as he had saved her life. And someday, across light years of emptiness, he would answer her surprising order and stand by her side once more. Captain Arjun woke before dawn, restless with thoughts of Serena's distant world. He sat at the small desk by his bunk and activated the news holo viewer. The screen flickered to life, showing gleaming spires and verdant gardens under two pale suns. Serena's people moved among tidy streets, rebuilding what the war had torn apart. Children played beside fountains that sang with soft light. Arjun pressed a finger to the pendant hidden beneath his uniform, feeling its cool weight and remembering her brave smile as she left his world behind. He leaned forward, eyes fixed on the images. He could almost hear Serena's musical voice translating the city's name. He wondered how she felt, seeing her home reborn. Did she think of him when the wind carried the scent of alien blossoms? The thought made his chest tighten, but it also filled him with a quiet joy. Even across light years, he had helped that world survive. At breakfast, his fellow officers spoke only of strategy and supply lines. No one mentioned Serena's planet or the peace she helped them win. Arjun stared at his empty tray, feeling out of place. He longed to share what he had seen, but their eyes glazed over when he spoke of alien art and songs. They could not understand why saving one fragile life mattered more than orders and tactics. Afterward, Arjun walked to the base's small recreation yard. Dusty light filtered through mesh windows. He sat on a bench and held the pendant in both hands, tracing the glowing script. Each curve of the crescent carried a memory, her pale hand trembling in his, her silver eyes trusting him with her life. He closed his eyes and pictured the moment she pressed it into his palm. He felt her gratitude as strongly as any spoken word. A friend, Lieutenant Myra, joined him. She sat quietly at first, then said, "I saw the news feed. Your alien friend's world looks beautiful." Arjun nodded, surprised she had noticed. He hesitated, then shared what Serena had said about humans who chose mercy. Mira listened, her eyes bright. "You did something rare, Arjun," she said. "You reminded us why we fight to protect life, not just win battles." He smiled at her words, feeling hope stir in his heart. Later in the briefing room, Arjun studied the small data crystal Serena had given him. He slipped it into a reader and watched as her message played, her silver eyes lit by emotion as she described the upcoming diplomatic mission. She had asked him by name to join. Arjun's pulse quickened. To serve on a diplomatic ship was far from his usual assignments, but the chance to stand beside Serena again filled him with purpose. He closed the crystal reader when the message ended. Around him, officers prepared for yet another supply run to the front lines. Arjun packed his case slowly, each movement deliberate. He placed the pendant on top of his gear so he would see it first each morning. He imagined it glowing softly in the dark, a beacon guiding him to a better future. That evening, Arjun returned to his bunk and wrote a short report requesting transfer to the diplomatic vessel bound for the moon Seredin, explained that his familiarity with Serena's language and the trust they shared could help negotiations. The desk light cast a warm glow on the paper as he signed his name. He pressed the request into the communicator. As he switched off the hololamp, Arjun felt a calm resolve. The war still shadowed the galaxy, but he carried hope in his heart and the promise of peace in his pocket. Tomorrow, he would step into a new role, guided by the bond formed on the shattered plane. And somewhere far away, Serena would know that her life-saving gesture had changed more than one human soul. Captain Arjun was roused before dawn by the insistent buzz of his COM device. He blinked at the small screen, surprised to see a message, stamped with Serena's royal crest. His heart quickened as he tapped open. The words were simple, yet carried weight. She requested his presence to escort an important delegation to a distant moon. He dressed quickly in his service uniform. The morning light soft through the window. He stared at the pendant lying on his desk, its pale glow a quiet reminder of the bond they shared. With steady hands, he clipped it to his chest pocket, close to his heart. Though the orders came through official channels, he knew in his bones this mission was personal. At the briefing room, Arjun entered to find senior officers gathered around a holographic map. They turned to him with neutral expressions. The mission was described as diplomatic, no weapons, no combat. Instead, he would protect hopes and promises between worlds. June felt a surge of purpose as he surveyed the charted path to the moon. Called Vespertine, Serena appeared at the door, her uniform crisp and white under the warm lights. She moved toward him with quiet grace. Her silver eyes shone with relief and determination. She spoke softly, her musical language mingling with basic English phrases she had practiced. "Thank you for coming," she said, voice trembling. Arjun bowed, feeling every syllable like a heartbeat. They prepared the starship together. Crew members loaded supplies, medical kits, food rations, ceremonial gifts. Serena handed Arjun a sealed holo letter with the delegation's details. Inside were profiles of representatives from allied worlds, a tall, blue-skinned engineer, a small luminescent scholar, and a veteran healer whose eyes radiated warmth. Each needed his guidance and protection. As the engines hummed to life, Arjun walked Serena through safety protocols, explained gravity shifts, emergency procedures, and the importance of unity during travel. She listened intently, her attention unwavering. When he showed her how to secure the delegation's gifts in the cargo hold, their hands brushed. A spark of shared excitement passed between them as the ship rose from the dock. During the journey, Arjun and Serena found moments to speak quietly in the observation deck. They watched distant stars drift by and spoke of home. Serena described gardens growing from scarred earth on Lyra Prime. Arjun told of forest streams on Earth that healed his own scars. Each story drew them closer, weaving their hopes into a shared tapestry of peace. When they neared Vespertine, Arjun felt his pulse quicken. He checked each system, ensuring everyone aboard felt safe. Serena stood beside him, shoulders squared, but her eyes bright with trust. In that silent moment, he realized the true weight of his role, not as a soldier, but as a guardian of hope and friendship. As the ship touched down on Vespernine's dusty surface, Arjun felt a calm confidence. The delegation gathered at the airlock, faces hopeful. Serena placed a gentle hand on his arm and nodded. Together, they opened the hatch and stepped into the new world. Arjun inhaled the alien air, feeling gratitude and anticipation mingle in his chest. This was more than a mission, it was the beginning of a bridge between worlds, and he was honored to walk across it with Serena by his side. Captain Arjun woke to the soft chime of his cum device, its light blinking insistently in the quiet of his quarters. He rubbed sleep from his eyes and reached for the small screen. The message display showed Serena's royal crest glowing against a dark background. His heart skipped a beat as he opened the brief note. She needed him for a special mission. He dressed hurriedly, pulling on his uniform with trembling fingers. The morning light through the viewport painted his room in pale gold. He clipped the crescent pendant to his chest pocket, its cool metal a reminder of Serena's trust. Though the orders came through official channels, he felt their true weight as a personal call to duty. At the briefing room, Arjun found senior officers gathered around a holographic map of space. They looked up as he entered. The command officer cleared her throat and pointed to a blue dot labeled Vespernine Moon. She explained that Serena's people planned a peace delegation and needed trusted military escort. "No weapons," she said. "Only protection and goodwill." Arjun felt his pulse quicken with purpose. He stepped forward and studied the map. Lines connected worlds still healing from war, and the route traced through silent corridors of space. Serena would stand at his side as they guided ambassadors to the moon. Arjun imagined her pale face determined under the starship's lights. He nodded, feeling his resolve harden like tempered steel. He would go wherever she asked. After the briefing, Arjun made his way to the hangar. A sleek diplomatic cruiser waited, its hull gleaming under repair lights. Technicians cleared away tools and sealed fresh welds. Serena stood near the boarding ramp, her silver eyes calm but bright with hope. She offered him a small data crystal box stamped with her family's seal. Inside lay all the details of the delegation, names, schedules, even seating arrangements for the long voyage. Arjun accepted the crystal and felt its smooth surface under his palm. He slipped it into his utility belt. Serena watched him with a gentle smile. She spoke in her melodic language, and he listened as best he could. Though her words sounded like music, Arjun caught the note of relief in her voice. She trusted him to share her mission of peace. They climbed aboard together. The interior was warm and quiet, lit by soft panels that changed color with the ship's mood. The crew members greeted Arjun respectfully, then turned back to their tasks. Serena guided him to the briefing console. He activated the crystal, and holographic photos of each delegate appeared. A tall engineer with blue skin, a scholar whose hair glowed faintly, and a veteran healer whose hands had saved many lives. As the engines powered up, Arjun stood beside Serena in the observation lounge. Stars streaked past the viewport like distant fireflies. Serena placed a hand on his arm. Her touch was light, but it grounded him. He turned to look at her pale profile, lit by the cosmos beyond. She spoke a few words in broken English, thanking him for coming. Arjun bowed his head and whispered, "I would follow you anywhere." The ship glided into the silent sea of space. Arjun felt a quiet thrill. As he walked the corridor with Serena, each door they passed led to a new challenge, hosting weary ambassadors, calming old fears and building bridges with words rather than weapons. He pressed his hand to the pendant beneath his uniform. That steady weight he felt faith in him, and he vowed to honor it every light year of the journey. Captain Arjun led the small delegation through the grand hall of Vespernine's Central Council chamber. The vast room was circular, its domed ceiling painted with swirling stars and comets. Rows of seats rose like gentle steps filled with representatives. From allied worlds, each face was different. Some had glowing skin, others bore fine scales or delicate feathers, but all watched him with wary eyes. Arjun felt his heart pound, but he held his shoulders straight and his voice calm. Serena stood at his side, translating his words into the song-like language of her people. Arjun began by telling the story of their first meeting on the shattered plain, how he had risked his own life to save hers. He spoke of the fear in her silver eyes and the trust she placed in him when she reached for his jacket. Even those who did not understand his exact words felt the emotion in his tone. He carefully removed the small crescent pendant from his pocket and held it aloft. "This," he said, "is not just a gift. It is a promise. When I carried Serena from danger, I carried her hope. And today, I carry the hope of every world here present." He let the pendant catch the soft light of the hall. A ripple of interest moved through the delegates. Arjun turned to Serena, and she sang the meaning of his words in her clear voice. The melody was simple, yet it carried the weight of trust. Between two individuals from different worlds, a tall engineer rose next. His blue skin shimmered under the chamber lights. He spoke of broken machines and wounded cities, of planets still reeling from the war's destruction. His voice echoed off the dome. Arjun listened carefully, nodding. When the engineer finished, Arjun stepped forward again and offered practical aid. Earth's medical teams could help rebuild hospitals. Human engineers could share technology to restore power grids. He spoke plainly, avoiding jargon, so every delegate could follow. Serena interpreted each sentence without pause. As the dialogue continued, tension eased. A small scholar, her translucent skin glowing faintly, asked how humans had found the strength to risk everything for one life. Arjun glanced at Serena and then back at the scholar. He answered simply, "Because every life matters. In saving Serena, I found purpose beyond orders. I found friendship beyond borders." He saw understanding light the scholar's eyes. Serena's gentle translation wove his simple words into a tapestry of shared empathy. After hours of discussion, the delegation gathered around a low table to draft the aid agreement. Arjun and Serena moved among them, offering guidance and encouragement. When two delegates disagreed over resource allocation, Serena suggested a compromise drawn from her people's tradition of shared water rights. Arjun backed the idea, recalling how humans survived ancient droughts by sharing wells. Together, they showed that lessons from different worlds could solve any problem, as dusk fell beyond the chamber's high windows. The final draft lay before them. Each delegate signed with a personal seal, a starburst, a wave, a leaf. Last, Serena handed the pen to Arjun. His hand trembled slightly as he pressed his seal into the ink, then onto the parchment. The chamber grew silent. Then one by one, delegates stood and offered bows or nods of respect. The engineer clasped Arjun's arm. "Your courage inspired us," he said through Serena's voice. When the ceremony ended, Arjun and Serena stepped onto the balcony overlooking the alien city below. Twin moons hung low in the violet sky. Serena placed her hand on his shoulder and smiled. Arjun smiled back, feeling warmth spread through him. In that moment, he knew their work had done more than secure. It had built a bridge of trust. Between worlds, as they returned to the starship, Arjun looked at the pendant tucked against his chest. It glowed faintly in the dark corridor. He thought of the next steps, delivering supplies, training medics, rebuilding homes. But most of all, he thought of the bond forged in war and peace. Together with Serena, he would carry that bond into every corner of the galaxy. And wherever hope was needed, he would answer its call. Captain Arjun woke early to the gentle hum of the starship's engines and the soft glow of corridor lights. He dressed quickly and made his way to the cargo hold, where crates of medical supplies, food rations, and rebuilding tools stood ready. Serena was already there, checking inventory with precise care. Her silver eyes lit with purpose as she handed him a small box of nutrient packs meant for children. Arjun smiled at her determination. Together, they would bring hope to worlds. Still healing, they arrived at a dusty settlement on the edge of a crater plain. The sky above Vesper 9 was gray with ash drifting from past battles, but on the ground, life was stirring again. Villagers waited among half-rebuilt huts, their curious faces painted with cautious optimism. As the shuttle's ramp lowered, Serena and Arjun stepped onto the rough earth. Children peeked from behind pillars, Adults stood tall with wary pride, and elders leaned on walking sticks, their eyes filled with relief. Arjun knelt beside a small girl clutching a ragged doll. He offered her a nutrient pack, and her eyes widened as she sniffed its sweet scent. When he opened the pack for her, she took a careful bite, then smiled bright like a new sun. Serena knelt beside him and spoke soothing words in her melodic tongue. The girl's mother wept and pressed Arjun's hand to her heart, tears tracing lines in the dust on her cheeks. In that moment, Arjun felt the weight of his mission more deeply than ever. Next, they moved to the medical tent, human and alien. Doctors worked side by side, their hands steady as they patched wounds and fitted braces. Arjun watched as Serena translated medical terms, her calm voice guiding patients through each step. A wounded soldier, his uniform torn, managed a weary smile when Serena explained that Earth's medics could help fix his shattered leg. Arjun patted the soldier's shoulder. "You'll walk again," he promised, and Serena's gentle nod carried the same assurance after the clinic. They visited a construction site where teams repaired a collapsed water tower. Arjun joined the workers, lifting a heavy beam with surprising ease. Sweat beaded his brow, but he welcomed the effort. Serena handed him tools and steady words of encouragement. As they worked side by side, they joked quietly about human strength and alien resilience. Laughter rang out among the crew, blending cultures in a single, hopeful chorus. When the tower stood tall once more, water gushed through new pipes and arched into the sky, a clear reminder that life would flow again. That evening, under the twin moons of Vespernine, Arjun and Serena walked through the settlement's central courtyard. Lanterns hung from rough posts, casting a warm light on children playing tag among crates and building blocks. Adults shared simple meals on low tables, using plates made from repurposed materials. Music rose from a small group of aliens playing soft flutes. Arjun reached for Serena's hand, and she linked her fingers with his. In that gentle touch, they shared the quiet joy of a world rebuilding itself. Serena paused by a rough stone wall, where someone had painted a mural of a white-skinned girl and a human soldier standing together against a dark sky. She traced the painting with a slender finger, her eyes misting. Arjun stood beside her and she leaned her head on his shoulder. "You saved more than my life," she whispered in his ear. "You helped save this world." Arjun felt a lump in his throat. He tightened his arm around her and said only, "We did this together." As the night deepened, Arjun returned to the starship with Serena by his side. He looked back at the settlement, lights flickering like stars fallen to the ground. Hope burned bright in every window. He lifted the crescent pendant from his pocket and held it up against the ship's viewport. Its glow mingled with the moon's light, a symbol of trust shining across space. Tomorrow, they would continue to deliver, aid and share knowledge. And when their work here was done, they would carry these memories and this hope to the next world waiting for healing. Captain Arjun stood at the starship's loading bay as the final crates were secured for departure. The settlement on Vespernine had transformed from a field of ruins into a place of laughter and light. His heart swelled with pride. Serena joined him, her pale face soft with contentment. They shared a quiet glance, remembering the first time they met among smoke and shattered metal, how far they had come together. Inside the ship's common cabin, the delegation's members were packing personal messages for their home worlds. Arjun watched the tall engineer carefully fold a letter into a small envelope, then place it beside a carved wooden figurine representing hope. Across the cabin, the scholar sealed a glass vial filled with bioluminescent spores, a gift to remind his people that life could glow even after darkness. Serena translated their words into soft music, weaving unity through every note. Arjun found a quiet corner and unsheathed the crescent pendant. He held it between his fingers, feeling its gentle warmth. Serena leaned close and traced the alien script with her fingertip. She recalled aloud how the elders had taught her people that the crescent moon symbolized new beginnings. Arjun smiled, realizing how her world's wisdom guided their own journey. He pressed the pendant to his heart, vowing silently to carry that wisdom wherever he went. The engines hummed softly as the ship lifted from Vesper Nine's dusty plains. Through the viewport, Arjun watched the settlement shrink into a cluster of lights. He pictured children chasing each other under lanterns, elders studying human maps, and medics teaching alien healers new techniques.
Yes.
Serena stood at his side, her eyes reflecting the glow of twin moons fading behind them. She slipped her hand into his, and their fingers intertwined naturally, stronger now after every trial. During the long voyage home, Arjun and Serena worked together to refine plans. For future aid missions, they drafted proposals for mobile clinics, portable water purifiers, and cultural exchange programs where humans and aliens would learn each other's histories. Arjun typed in precise English, while Serena added lyrical notes in her script. Their teamwork felt effortless, as if two halves of a single hope had finally joined to form one. At meals, crew members and delegates shared stories of bravery and loss. Arjun listened as the veteran healer spoke of tended wounds and saved lives, and he told of battles where mercy won over vengeance. Serena translated every tale, her voice steady and clear. Laughter rose when the engineer described a very human mistake, mixing water purifier parts backwards, and teased Arjun playfully for his puzzled look. Even in space, their friendship made every moment warm. One evening, standing on the observation deck, Arjun and Serena watched distant stars drift by in silent procession. Serena pointed out a cluster of lights and said it was the edge of her home galaxy. Arjun traced it with his finger and felt the ache of separation. Serena sensed his longing and placed her hand on his shoulder. He turned to her and saw in her eyes an unspoken promise. They would face distance together, guided by the bond they had forged as the ship entered human space. Arjun received a communique from his superiors, welcoming the successful mission. He glanced at Serena, who read the message after translating it aloud. The words praised his bravery and noted the historic alliance he had helped establish. Yet the greatest reward for Arjun was not in medals or titles, it was in the knowledge that one act of kindness had reshaped the fate of two worlds. When the starship docked at Earth's orbital station, Arjun and Serena stepped onto the welcoming platform beneath a sky streaked with dawn's light. Human officers and alien diplomats stood together, applause rising in unison. Serena's people presented her with a wreath of glowing flowers, and human commanders saluted Arjun with respectful nods, mid cheers and beaming faces. Serena and Arjun found each other and embraced two friends who had bridged the stars. Later, in the calm of the station's garden dome, Serena pressed the crescent, pendant to Arjun's hand once more. For the next journey, she whispered in his ear, her voice warm and hopeful. Arjun fastened it around her neck, honoring the gift and the promise it carried. As they stood among Earth's green plants beneath an alien sky, they knew their story was only beginning. Together they would answer every call for hope and mercy across the galaxy.